Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first in our 2001 lockdown Q&A series. Our special guest tonight is Jonathan Agnew, MBE, Aggers. Thank you so much, Aggers, for agreeing to face some Q&As from members this evening.
True pleasure.
I'll shortly be asking John Fingers to say a few words of introduction. Before we start, just a few quick words of housekeeping for
Fiona, can you come and help?
Can you please keep your
Darling, can you come and help?
Everybody on mute, please, except unless you're talking. We're aiming to finish at around 7 o'clock, and we have a large number of members who want to ask questions. So please do try and keep your questions concise. Would you all make sure that your microphones are kept on mute throughout, except when you're invited to ask a question? Our first 3 questions will be asked by Simon Doff, Tony Brophy and David Hanley, although we're having trouble finding David Hanley at the moment, so please make yourself known. Please be ready to ask the question as soon as Fingers has completed his introduction. So now over to Fingers.
And a very warm good evening. And Aggers, it's a thrill to have you. Thank you for kicking off our new season with so much style.
That's a pleasure.
You are a man of style, because when I was looking you up, not only MBE, but it also said DL. And I assumed, as you're quite a posh bloke, I had to be deputy lieutenant. And then I saw, well, actually, you were only an honorary doctor, but that's at 2 universities. And I then discovered you're actually DL cubed, because you are a deputy lieutenant as well as an honorary doctor at De Montfort and Leicester Universities. So quite apart from cricket, you are very much honoured in this world. And in your honour, you might recall on the 14th of January this year, you were caught in your attic at 4:30 in the morning wearing your dressing gown. So I thought it was only fair that I should be wearing my dressing gown to greet you now. You have, I think, the longest CV I've ever seen in Wikipedia. It goes to 16 pages. So I'm not going to go through it, but the best one of all, the easiest one to sort of talk about your career from was, funnily enough, from the University of Leicester. They did a wonderful biography of you, very short, succinct. If I can just read a bit of it, has a successful first-class career as a fast bowler for Leicestershire, 79 to 90. First-class cricket, he took 666 wickets. Someone did say earlier, I'm surprised he didn't go for the 667, but it might not have been your choice. I'm sure you probably did. And at an average of 29.25, 3 test caps, 3 one-day international caps, and an entire international career within a year. And in county cricket, your most successful season came towards the end of your career. You were named as one of 5 Wisden Cricketers of the Year in 1988. You then moved on from bowling the ball to bowling googlies in the commentary box, and you've done it with succinct style. And we all love hearing you, and nothing beats TMS. I mean, the others make a feeble attempt at it, and they don't do too badly, but not. But we had. You're also extraordinarily kind, because you gave a couple of years ago. You were giving constant health reports on me on TMS, and I was coming home in the evening, endless phone calls, wanting to know what was wrong. But anyway, you're a very good chap, a very good mate, and a very good commentator, and a very good man to run that whole thing. The best quote I think I've seen about you was in The Scotsman, and I think you use it yourself. A figure so comfortable with the relaxed style, the mellifluous cadence, and the reflexive witticism that you wonder if Aggers is truly the person Alan Partridge imagines he is. And, but I think all those words are true. Aggers, welcome, and thank you for coming on board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. We'll press straight on with our first question today, and I think we found David Hanley now. So, David, you're on the microphone.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Aggers.
Hello, David.
In the wake of this awful, well, last year, the awful 2020, how do you think cricket should capitalise on the return of spectators this year?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? Well, I mean, let's celebrate it if it happens, first of all. I think they're pretty confident that it will. I was a little bit spooked by the fact that they moved the World Test final away from Lords and put it at Southampton, where I guess it is biosecure. So maybe that's just the ICC being careful. But I think all the positive words I'm hearing from ECB are that they are hopeful, not necessarily of full houses, but socially distant crowds, which, let's face it, would be such an improvement on last year, which is really strange to play in, strange to watch and listen, and certainly very strange to commentate. I mean, you wonder if your eyes had gone sometimes because something exciting would happen. And there'd be silence, and you think, oh, wow, did that really happen? So how do we celebrate it? I just think it'll happen naturally, won't it? I just think the thought of actually being in a ground, a cricket ground, it doesn't matter where it is, but even half full of people who are there, just so pleased to be there. You know, there's always that feeling about being these live events anyway, isn't there? That most people are there because they really want to be there. Lords, I remember as a kid running in, and it's the same now. You still get that feeling, don't you, of people just desperate for the day. I just think, I have to be honest, how do you celebrate it? I think the people who are there will make it a celebration, and it's not a cop-out, but I just think, I'm not going to give you any free tickets or anything like that. That's what I just think it'll be brilliant. And it'll just be fantastic. You know, it just... Sport is about entertainment. It's about crowds. It's about audiences, and the fact that we've got through this year is pretty remarkable, I think. But it's time it came to an end.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Our next question was to ask you something about bowlers. Simon Doff. Simon.
Yes. Good evening. I've got a question about short pitch bowling. Why do you think cricket tolerates fast bowlers bowling bouncers at batsmen when spin bowlers and medium pace bowlers, if they drop short, get hooked and pulled to the boundary? Is it fair that spinners and medium pacers have to rely on skill alone, whereas fast bowlers can intimidate and hit batsmen?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. But that's all part of the great variety of cricket, isn't it? That's, you know, on the one hand, you have got the intimidation and that sort of fear factor. That noise of my dog being sick. Emma, the dog's being sick. He's not very well, the old boy. Thank you, mate. Emma, come and sort it out. She's downstairs. But that's the great variety of the game, in that you can have that contrast. And there's been a lot of talk at the moment about not having short pitch fast bowling, but all that would do is just encourage mediocrity. You know, the ultimate challenge in cricket is being skillful and brave enough to withstand hostility. You know, that's what the game is. The game isn't about underarm bowling, and about the skill of the spinner from the other end, if need be. But it would be a very restricted and weakened game, I think, if somehow you legislated against there being short pitch fast bowling. I mean, for me, and okay, I'm a bit biased, I suppose, but you know, one of the great sights is of a fast bowler tearing in and bowling fast and bowling a bouncer, and the batsman, you know, so brave, and opening batsmen are such brave people, swaying out of the way and then getting back in line for the next ball and playing it. That's just part of the game, and I don't think those batsmen necessarily enjoy it, but they just love the feeling of having sort of won it at the end. It's all part of it. And I know it sort of challenges techniques and so on, but you want Test cricket to be the ultimate, don't you? I do. And there's always been an unanswered question.
I do. I mean, the greatest spell of fast bowling I saw was Dennis Lillee in 1975 at Lord's.
Right.
On a flat wicket, a blue day. You know, but he had England 4 wickets down, every ball line and length. I thought it was terrific. And you know, it doesn't. But there's this moral point. I mean, Shane Warne, Graham Swan. You know, they've bowled their entire careers without being able to intimidate. You know, why should we allow someone like you bowling fast to do that when Shane Warne hasn't had that option?
Because they've got other skills. You know, I just think you need that. You need that variety. It'd be for me at least. I mean, you're entirely own opinion. It'd just be quite a dull game without the. You know, did Dennis Lee really take 4 wickets without bowling a single bouncer? I find that very hard to believe.
Yes, it's absolutely amazing. You know, with something like a 7-2 field. I mean, just remarkable.
Well, look at Michael Holding at the Oval the following year, or more or less. You know, he didn't bowl many short balls in that. Actually, it was a very flat pitch. But it's just part of it is the knowledge that he can. And that again is that bluff that, you know, you actually hang on to that bouncer for a while, but the batsman knows next ball could be around his nose. And so again, it's that slight trepidation, that slight flaw in the footwork as a result of just being a little bit concerned up there about where you might be next, and bang, it's all over. It's gone at 90 miles an hour, you've nicked it behind and you're out. And that's, Shane Warne's got loads and loads of skill, and obviously, and the others, but you know, give me the fast bowler tearing as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Simon. Our next question is from Tony Brodie. Tony. No, Tony's not there.
I've not been able to find him, James, under either Anthony or Tony. I have been looking.
Okay, so we'll move on to Noel then. I think Noel's going to ask a question standing in for Tony Curry.
Thank you, James. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Good evening, Aggers.
Good evening. I'm very well indeed. Nice to hear from you.
And you. We actually sat together at a Huntingdonshire Cricket Board dinner a few years ago. Do you remember?
I remember it well. I remember it well. Lots to talk about Charlotte Edwards, I seem to recall.
That's correct. That's correct. And you showed me how to do a selfie that night, which was very nice. Right. My question tonight is on behalf of Tony Curry, and he came up with a very good question, and it revolves around the number 100. Right. James and I, who's hosting this, sat together at the Oval on 2017 in the members area on the 5th day, and there were 6 people on adjacent row to us, all listening to TMS, and all at once they all started laughing. Right, we said there's nothing going on in the game that's telling us what's going on. Well, we did find out later. So the question is, who came up with the idea? How did you develop that idea to take the piss out of Sir Geoffrey in such a wonderful, memorable way? The 100th test at the Oval.
I wondered where you were going with that. I'll just show you something. Hang on, because you've reminded me now. Geoffrey Boycott is not like the rest of us, okay? So I keep very few mementos. It's disappointing. I'm in my attic where I do my broadcasting from. But if you can see this, I went to Geoffrey's 70th birthday party, which is obviously some time ago now. But there it is. So what do you get for attending Geoffrey Boycott's birthday party? You get a signed bat from Geoffrey. Odd, isn't it? I mean, like a sort of a memento. But anyway, there it is. So Geoffrey's not like the rest of us. And if you recall, this was the summer. We were heading up to the 40th anniversary of Geoffrey Boycott's 100th 100, which he felt the nation should celebrate. And so he had gone on and on about this thing all summer. And we got to the Oval, you're quite right. And I arrived there a little bit earlier. And Andrew, our stats man, was there. He's South African, he's a lovely bloke. And I said to him, Andrew, are you fed up with Boycott and this 100th 100? And Andrew said, oh, geez, man, absolutely. I said, right, come on then. We've got 15 minutes to sort something out. We're going to stitch him up. I've had enough. I've had enough as well. So in that time, he came up with the idea, actually, of the rest of the world 100, which was brilliant. And as soon as he came up with that, bang, that was it. So I wrote the press release from the ICC, which actually, very disappointingly, it was very rushed. I actually spelled apartheid wrong, which I'm very cross about. But he didn't spot that. But anyway, so we wrote that. We got the facts. We got everything done. And then it was one of those moments where I know the producer was a bit anxious because we don't kind of do these wind-ups quite so much as we used to do. When Brian Johnston was going, we did this all the time to the poor old boy. But it sort of moved on a bit. So the program's evolved a slightly different way from that. But anyway, the moment came, and I built it up a bit because I was expecting a press release about something else. So when the producer handed me the press release that I had written, I said, "Oh, here's its press release, of course." So it sounded as if we were waiting for this, and I read, and off we went, and of course we read it out, and we were very lucky in that nothing happened in the game in about the 15 minutes or so that this very slow process, this slow burner went. And Andy played his part magnificently, of course, very straight, but with great humour. And of course, Boycott, I know him so well, was completely sucked into the whole thing. And it became one of those moments where he thought, how am I going to end this? because he was so, he'd actually restrained himself very well. I mean, you know, think what he's like normally. I mean, there was no swearing. He'd actually managed to contain himself, although he was absolutely steaming. And I had learned later that his wife, Rachel, was actually up at their house unloading all the champagne off the back of a lorry for this dinner that they were having to celebrate this event. And she was shouting at the radio, "Shut up, Jonathan, shut up, Jonathan," as the champagne was coming off the back of this lorry, you know. So it was great fun. And I mean, fair play to Geoffrey, he actually took it very well. Even at the end, when I showed my hand, he did take it well. And he's on about getting his revenge. Well, he hasn't done yet. But it had to be good because he's been in broadcasting so long. And there are certain things that little clues that you can look for when things you know are being a bit staged or whatever. But we did the old boy. But it showed a nice humorous side of Geoffrey, I thought, actually. Not everyone sees that.
No.
You know, people read and hear, you know, this rather cantankerous Yorkshireman who's never wrong and everything else. But he's actually, I know I'm a bit biased, but I have worked with Geoffrey for a very long time, and he's a very good friend of mine. He's actually much softer than that. Whether he was as a player, I don't know, because I've never actually played with him. I played against him quite a lot, but I've never actually played the same side as Geoffrey. And I think there were more issues about you know, him and his teammates than there were about others. But I just always had a huge respect for him. He's one of the best people I've ever worked with on radio. He's always got something to say. It's always interesting. He might repeat it a few times, but he always adds something. He always brings something to it. And you know, for someone doing what I do, when you got someone like you got Geoffrey sitting next to you, that's good because you're going to bounce along with interesting things to say. And I've always been lucky in that. I think he does respect me as well. I don't think many people get away with some of the things I've tortured him with over the years. But I miss him. You know, I won't be working with him again. And that was, I shed a tear when that was revealed, really. And
you're not working with him again?
No, he's kind of finished now. I think last year, the whole question of, I mean, he couldn't have done the bio bubble. You know, he's not been a well man, and it was a lot to ask anybody, let alone you know, an 80-year-old who's not being well. So
Sure.
I think the split has happened. I think, which is a shame.
Shame. Well, of course, like hundreds of thousands, I saw the whole thing and listened to it later on, and it was hilarious. And of course, that day ended with a hat trick for mowing, didn't it?
It did, and I hope he gets a chance to take another Test hat trick. It was all a bit strange what happened to him on this India tour. The whole I don't know if people might have got the talk about rotation and stuff. In which case, I'll deal with that if they have. But it's certainly an issue that we can talk about.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Jonathan.
Pleasure. I'm glad you were listening.
Thank you, Noel. And Joe, very quickly, apologies to those who've had trouble getting into the meeting. We were stuck at 100 for some time, but hopefully those who are now joining us will enjoy the rest of it, haven't missed too much. Noel, thank you. Our next question comes from Justin Rose. Have we found Justin, Paul?
No, haven't found Justin. I've got Max. Next one. I will look for Justin again now that we're letting new people in.
So Max Sawyer. Max.
Good evening, Aggers.
Hello, Max.
Easy one for you, I think. Of the players you have seen, who would be your choice for best batsman, best fast bowler, best slow bowler, best wicket keeper, and why?
Oh, but you said that's easy. That's not easy. That's a horrible question. It's one of those where whatever you say, people say, "Oh no, what about so and so?" That's fine. Who would I pay good money to go and watch? I guess who I have seen, because obviously I'd want to see Don Bradman. I'd want to interview W.G. Grace, but that's not going to be the case. I've seen Wally Hammond bat, Peter May. I love seeing Colin Cowdery. But anyway, favourite batsman. I think probably David Gower, and I was lucky enough to watch quite a lot of him because he was my captain at Leicester, so I'm a bit biased. Although I think even he would probably admit he didn't score the runs for us that he probably could have done. But when he was batting, he just left the dressing room, went out the balcony and sat and watched. So I batted the other end to him once, that was all. And all those years, I was night watcher, and so I made it through the night and resumed our innings the next day together, walking out to bat with David Gower, which is incredible. it didn't last long. Malcolm Marshall was bowling, and I stood at the other end and watched Marshall bowling to Gower for, I don't know, a few overs, I guess. And it was just like watching a contest within the actual contest itself, a different game. These two are playing on a different plane, you know. It was amazing. It was incredible. The time that Gower had to play Marshall, who was really steaming in, bowling quick, fierce competitor that Malcolm was. And it was just incredible to stand there the other end, 19 yards or whatever it was, and actually witness this going on. I think it lasted, well, yeah, it lasted about 10 minutes. I got down the other end and Malcolm finished me off, but I'll never forget standing there from that range and actually witnessing Gower bat. You talk about time and so on. Well, that was amazing. Bowling, Mikey Holding would be my favourite, along with Dennis Lilly. I mean, all those fast bowlers of that generation. Andy Roberts is a great friend of mine and helped me a lot at the time at Leicester. I wouldn't have played for England without Andy, I don't think, bowling at the other end. But any of those, you know, Tomo, I love working with Tomo. I love watching him bowl. He's so unusual. Great character. Spinner, Shane Warne, without doubt. This great pantomime dame of a character. I love these characters in the game because as a commentator, it actually makes your job so much easier. You know, you can talk about the character and the individual as well as about what he's actually doing with the bat or the ball. So to have someone like him to describe and his antics was always brilliant. And keeping Alan Knott, who I remember once I was stumped not bowled Underwood North. I was very pleased because again he was kind of a childhood hero, really. I played against him quite a lot. Completely mad, incredible theories about all sorts of strange things. The one place he would never want to field to Alan Knott was on the sweep for a spin bowler, because that's literally was his only shot. He would sweep and sweep and sweep and sweep. The ball would spin. It's always very hard to field. But a beautiful keeper. He kept wicket once at Folkestone on a pitch that just exploded. And Derek Underwood got a stack of wickets, and Knott's keeping without a helmet or anything on that. It was just absolutely incredible. So he would be. So I think that probably goes through the list.
Yep. Thank you, Aggers.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. So now, we found Justin. We found Anthony. We'll go to Justin first, and then if you're ready, Anthony, we'll come to you later. Justin.
Hello, Aggers.
Hello, Justin.
Hello.
Justin Rose. Good Lord.
Yes,
You're a cricket fan.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. CMJ was always very disappointed when it wasn't the goal for Justin Rose. But
Yeah.
two very quick questions, if that's all right. One is, although perhaps maybe it's not quite, doesn't seem quite as bad now, but it's the whole thing about the media being so Ashes centric. And I know it's difficult because. Do I carry on?
Yes, carry on.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's difficult because that's what a lot of the general public want to hear, but I find it frustrating sometimes because it affects, I find, not only the enjoyment for many people watching a series that's not the Ashes, but I sense sometimes it rubs off on the media that this is a lesser event, and then consequently on the players who are not really fully engrossed in it. The other question is, how can we avoid having dead rubbers as ticket prices for matches become more and more expensive? Nobody wants to go to the latter part of a series, having purchased tickets almost a year beforehand, to be told, well, here we are at the Oval, the match isn't of any importance really, but the series is gone, but it's good experience to see who might make for the Ashes. Is there any way you think we can get, given the precariousness of test match cricket, is there any way we can make every day of every match more meaningful?
Well, I'll answer that one first. Let me say that for the players involved, every day is totally meaningful. So you're not getting a substandard effort from the players. That I can assure you. You know, whatever the state of a series might be. But of course, they've got the World Test Championship now, and that's been brought in to do this very thing. So you do win these points, you earn the points, and that might get you to the final. India and New Zealand are the first finalists. I'm not sure what the final will be like. What happens if it's a draw? What happens if it rains? It's not going to be perfect, I don't think. But it just, as long as that does give context to dead games, then I think that's a good thing. As far as the Ashes is concerned, I understand what you're saying. But if you take this year, for instance, with the Ashes at the end of it, England have to prepare for that. I mean, it is, whether we like it or not, England and Australian cricket does tend to be driven by the Ashes. And unfortunately, we've had too much of it recently. We've had too much Ashes. They put in those extra ones, remember, and, you know, all for extra TV rights money and so on. You know, less is more, or at least the 4-year cycle is right. And again, that is what it is. It is that cycle that rather determines the way that our cricket goes. So what we've got, the situation, of course, before this India test started, was you've got 11, is it right? So we got 11 tests before the first test of the Ashes even starts. So I think that given that, whether you like it or not, I mean, Michael Vaughan is still referred to as Ashes winning captain. Andrew Strauss is an Ashes winning captain. Joe Root is not an Ashes winning captain, and he knows that. It's a tag, and it does seem to matter. So we've got players being rested and rotated now, and we were doing the India series, in order. Well, there were 2 sets of rotations going on. There was the rotation for the bubble, which I think was totally overplayed, if I'm honest, because I mean, India tours are played in a bubble anyway. You know, you don't go wandering down Ahmedabad High Street looking for a nice restaurant to go and eat in the evening. You live in the hotel. You do everything in the hotel, and it's the hygiene, all that is very, very strictly controlled. So I thought they rather overdid the need for rest out of bubble life. I honestly do. And when you see things like Joss Butler serving a quarantine for going back into India while that last test was being played, that's not a good look. Moeen going back, as I mentioned, Moeen shouldn't have played in that test match. He was going to go back afterwards, because that's completely screwed up Don Bess's confidence. So I think they got that wrong. But where they do have my sympathy is that they do want to get their best players to Australia for the Ashes. And their best players, or 2 of their best players, happen to be Anderson and Broad. And so they are trying to rotate those 2. I was always dead against rotation. I really was. I was very angry. James Anderson was first left out. I think it was the day-night game against West Indies at Edgbaston. I got very grumpy about it, because as a player, you have to have total faith in selection. And the selection process has to have integrity. Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart. You have to be picking the best team in my player's eye. And when I was playing in the 80s, there were a lot of comparable players, and we were in and out all the time, if you remember, in those days, which was good for county cricket, because we were all working very hard, and we knew that actually we had a chance of playing for England next week if you got some wickets. It wasn't so good when he got picked and played for England, because if you didn't get wickets straight away, you were back out again. But you know, in terms of the integrity of selection, you need to play the best. However, it's unrealistic to expect the fast bowlers in particular to play 11 test matches in 9 months, with all the one-day stuff that some of them play in, and a World T20 World Cup that some of them will be involved in, and then go and take on the Ashes. And so, you know, I see KP was saying mustn't underrate India until right. To an extent, he's right, but I'm afraid now I'm a bit of a media type, and I just know that the interest, you know, our numbers, our figures, just go through the roof when the Ashes is on. And it doesn't mean to say that you're downplaying the other series. At least I hope it's not, because that's not the way it is for the players. But I'm afraid, be you in England or be you in Australia, in these next few months, you're going to hear an awful lot of talk about the Ashes. And that's even before a ball has been bowled against India towards the end of the summer, which is a shame. But I just think it's the modern way that it is.
Am I still muted or?
No, you're still. But Justin, your second question, could we come back to that? Because we've got quite a few other people who want to ask questions. So perhaps we could come back to you at the end if we've got time.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Justin. So
Okay.
The next question, I think, concerning vaccine passports now from Tony Brophy. Tony.
Hello, thank you. I'm sorry there appears to be an issue with my video, but hopefully you can hear me.
We
So
can.
my question for Aggers. Rumours abound that in order to ensure player safety when members are finally allowed into Lords to watch cricket this year, the pavilion may be mostly out of bounds to members. With the likelihood of vaccine passports showing vaccination and negative test evidence, do you think that's excessive? And would you, if it were in your power, exclude members from the pavilion in these circumstances?
Oh dear. If there's an outbreak in either of the teams, depending on how severe it is, there's a very good chance that the game will be off. And there's a chance that the series will be off. So this is only on our experience of last summer and the bubble and so on. Now, and that was very, very tight. And you wouldn't want to, frankly, all of us were in that. I wouldn't want to do that again, if I'm honest. It was extremely claustrophobic. So for this year, I would think if that's the price that has to be paid to get these games played, and you can have people sitting in the stands and Lords sitting in the grandstand, you get a wonderful view from down our end of the ground. You know, come and potter down there one time and come and sit in the Compton. I would have to say that just this year, if that's what's necessary to get these games played and to get people in, and not to have, it'd be horrendous if. And I'm not saying it would be a member that would. I mean, I suspect most of the members have had their second jabs by now. But I doubt it'd be the members that pass it on. But my attitude at the moment, having had the year that we've had, is just, if that's what it takes, let's just suck it up, as they say these days, and just get it done. And if people can come and watch around the ground, then yeah, it's a way back, isn't it?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. So the next question then is from Peter Hart, who's got a question, I think, about Tony Greig.
Oh,
James. Thanks for coming, Aggers. Great to see you.
Oh, nice to see you.
One of my favourite TMS moments was when you interviewed Ian Greig shortly after Tony had died in Australia. It was in the summer after he had died. And it was just special. It was a wonderful, emotional, touching interview. I mean, I remember Tony as captain of England feeling, he was one game away from being sacked and going off to World Series cricket, and then obviously Channel 9, etc. But I mean, you talked about his friendship with Bill Lorry. You talked about, there was a man with total enthusiasm and passion. Every time you saw it, it was as if every day was special, and and it was just so infectious. I mean, you talked about him wanting to set up World Series radio with you.
That's right.
Director, absolutely. And going to the theatre and he's dancing in the aisle.
Yes.
I mean, the man was just, wasn't he? He had so much energy, and it was just brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to hear positive stuff about Tony, because people still have long memories about Packer. And when he was,
I loved it when he came and did the Spirit of Cricket lecture, which was fantastic at Lords. Yeah, just the year before he died. Well, the year he died.
I love Tony. He's spent the night at this house, and it was one of those bizarre ones, Tony, because again he was England captain when I was a kid, and so just really sort of getting into cricket, and so he was just like a hero, an icon. And the first Test match I ever saw was '76 at the Oval, because I was on the Surrey ground staff then, and so that was the grovel match and Michael Holding and everything else. So there was Tony. I was 16 then. There was Tony grovelling on the outfield, the England captain grovelling. Mikey Holding, one of my best mates these days, bowling a speed of light at the far end. And I never thought for a moment that, I'd get to know anybody within cricket, really, because I was just a fan. I just loved the game. And so one of the nicest parts of my job now is not only sort of having met some of these people, but actually they're good friends of mine. And Tony was certainly one of those. And yes, to see him dancing wildly to Mamma Mia in the theatre that day was incredible. Something I'll never forget. He was a brilliant cricketer, rather underrated, I thought, often by people. Fiercely competitive, great way of just pricking people a bit, to just wind them up a little bit. He'd have been a great captain to have played for. He'd have run through a barn door for Greggy, I think, and all of us in the game who knew him and worked with him, miss him enormously.
What a contribution he made. Fantastic. Yeah, wonderful.
Nice to talk about him.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much, Peter. So our next question then is from John Wilson. John.
Aggers, good evening. Thank you for doing this.
Pleasure.
I will say the question slowly because I know how you are with replays.
That was done from in here, by the way.
So to what extent do you expect COVID will change the way that broadcasters will cover overseas tours henceforth? How will it manifest itself, and to what degree do you consider it might impact the quality of such broadcasting? And just as an adjunct to that, I noticed that Alison Mitchell, on behalf of the cricket writers today, was commenting about the ECB cutting down on the number of reporters, for example, at matches. So I wonder if there's an aspect of that that concerns you.
Well, it's a very good question, because as soon as we started, we were commentating on the Sri Lanka series from all over the place. I mean, I was in here. This is my attic, and so it's right while I do my work. And as we started, we have a very clever bit of software called Swift, which is it's a BBC thing. And it means that you're watching the action on your computer, which is here in my case. You can't see it, but it's there. So I was watching the action from Sri Lanka via this app called Swift on my computer screen. Here, to my right, I've actually got Channel 4 on the telly in a bit better quality, but the point being that with this software, Swift, it didn't matter where you were in the world, you're all watching it at exactly the same time. Very clever. Don't ask me how the hell they did it, but whether you're in Manchester, Salford, someone was in Dubai, Isha's been in Australia, the pictures she saw in Sydney would be exactly the same timing as me, which is that's really the only way it could work, because you are synchronized and you also got the effects from the ground. So you could hear, actually got Gaul sound, although there wasn't very much of it, but you could get it. So to start with, because it sounded as if we were there, and people were saying to me, "My God, sending me text messages. How did you get there?" No, I'm not. I mean, I'm in Melton Mowbray. So immediately, of course, people were saying, "Well, that's it. There's no need for the BBC to send you away anymore. You and all your teams, you can just do it from your attics and scattered around the place. Glory be, it's fantastic. Save loads of money." And I was very concerned. My one worry about doing it, and I said it to my boss, was, "Look, you're just going to say we haven't got to go away anymore. We're just going to cover it off the telly." But what this winter has shown is that you can't get into the game. You are not in the game watching it on the telly. And in a way, it's rather opened my eyes to the criticism that I get as a commentator from people sitting and watching the telly, because, and I've always been a bit cross with them, and take it on, but you're not watching, you're watching a fraction of the game. You're looking at half a chessboard in a game of chess. Mm-hmm. You can't possibly see what's really going on, or feel what's going on, or build up to the game, or the talking points. You haven't spoken to the players about who's been doing this, who's bowling on the nets, who's not quite fit, who's got a poorly child at home, what's the pitch going to be like? All those things that actually matter. I mean, I interviewed Owen Morgan today, sitting here and looking down the camera like that. There he is in Ahmedabad. How do I interview Owen Morgan about the start of a T20 match? I'm not there. I can't remember who's in the squad, or who's flown home, or what the pitches are like, or you haven't got a feel for it. And I think very quickly, not just the replay incident, but that happened on Swift. And it was gloriously stitched up, really, by Sri Lankan telly, who, the normal routine is the wicket happens, commentator says blah blah blah, that's the score, it's 30 for 2, bang, everyone goes off for advert breaks. And so what the home production does is they just cut away to a remote random shot while everyone's away doing their adverts. And in this case, it was a boat. So I'm sitting here, I know everyone's doing adverts, I can see it on Channel 4, they're an advert break. Here I've got this boat, and I'm talking to Tuffers, I think, he's at the Oval, about what we'd seen. And I'm sort of counting about 3 minutes, usually, the advert breaks. Then what normally happens is they come back, the first shot is of the new batsman, he's probably doing a high five with the batsman who's out there, they're having a bit of a chat, he takes guard, he plays the first ball, and then they show a replay of the wicket that's fallen. That's usually That's usually how it goes. You've seen it all on telly often. So suddenly I'm talking to Tuffers, and on my computer, I've got cricket, and I've got the bowler, I've got Leach bowling at full speed from the same end to a batsman with a helmet on. So I'm thinking, oh crikey, okay, it's at full speed. So obviously it's the first ball to the new batsman. And so because there's no replay, or this is a replay put over the screen, there was nothing. It was just Leach bowling at normal speed. And the batsman, below me, played exactly the same shot, and Root took an amazing catch for the second time. And because of commentating, I sort of think this is incredible. What's going on here? What's this batsman doing? He's playing the same shot. And it was only halfway through it dawned on me. I said, this is like watching a replay. It dawned on me, thinking, you are watching a replay, you prat. But that's why I was stitched up, because they didn't show that. I assumed it was the first ball at normal speed. They didn't show the replay. They didn't show the first ball, then the replay. So that's how it happened. But it did demonstrate that there were lots of things that demonstrated why, actually, if you're going to report on a game of cricket, you've got to be there. You've got to be at the ground. To comment on a captain is actually very difficult when you're not there, because you don't get a feel for the game. Watching on the telly, you don't get the feel, the rhythm of the game that you do when you're not there. I remember Alex Stewart saying to me some years ago, he was having a go, you commentators, he's saying partially in jest, he was still playing, you commentators, it's so easy, you think you've got it all. I said, no, I'm telling you what, it is easy, Alex. And so one day you'll realise this, is that when you're sitting up there in the commentary box and you've got your blinkers off and you're not in the dressing room, you will see the game happening and a bowling change that needs to be made 10 minutes before you in the middle do. He said, nonsense, absolutely right. I'm telling you, because we're just watching the whole game. We haven't got any particular, so we're not blinkered from one team's perspective. And fair play to him, he did a couple of years of Radio 5 Live, he came to us and said, you're right. you just, when you're sitting and watching the game and the pieces being moved around the field and what the captain's doing, that's the only way really you can watch it. So it has been frustrating this winter to try and follow games without being there. But again, as I said, one of the earlier questions about the crowds, I think it'll just make it, even more special when you actually get back to walking out and looking at a cricket pitch again and talking to Joe Root, seeing the players again, because we miss them, and it's an interesting relationship that between the journalists and the players, but generally we all get on pretty well. It's
in the context of your comments, then, would you be concerned about the ECB cutting funding for the cricket writers and this idea of a few writers covering all of the county games?
Well, I haven't seen that, but if that's just to do with coronavirus and space,
no, it's the budget's being cut now for the cricket writers covering the county games.
The budget from whom though?
The ECB apparently, who fund some of the writers going to cover the county games.
Well, it's the newspapers that pay for the writers. I don't understand that quite. I'll have to look it up. I've not seen that, if I'm honest, so I'll look it up. But what I do know is I'm pretty sure you'll find the ECB has renewed the deal with the BBC to commentate on county cricket, which is good news. So it's not as though the ECB are sort of pulling the plug on county cricket. But I have to be honest with you, I don't know how many journalists who go to, you're talking about county matches, presumably.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those are funded by the ECB.
Forgive me, sorry, it's Kevin Moment. I think what's happening, and I'm no expert on it, but I think what happens is that, of course, the journalists are paid for either by the Press Association or their own newspapers. But I think the ECB fund the catering and accommodation at the county games, and I think they've said that they're going to dramatically reduce that provision. I may be wrong, but I think that's what.
Well, I shall check that up. But knowing Alison, who's very feisty, she'll put a fight up.
Well, it's Alison that made the posting, Jonathan.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll check it up with her.
Thank you very much.
She'll take them on. She'll roll her sleeves up.
Shall we move on, John? Thank you very much for that question. I think Tom Burridge is next for a question, but we haven't been able to find Tom, so we're going to move now on to
James. Just before you do, could I make an interjection there and ask Aggers? You've hit a nail on the head of what actually happens to all of us mugs who do watch it on television a lot of the time, and we think because they don't put up the word replay and we think we're watching something live. And it's not just because you were in your attic. It happens all the time to so many of us. Can you use what pressure you've got or power you might have to try and persuade broadcasters to actually put up, all it needs is a flash saying replay? I think the BCCI did it this year. They put live up, didn't they? So that's a bit of a help. But it's right. No, it's been interesting to have the experience, fingers.
Thanks, John. David Headley, are you there for your question?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Good evening, Aggers.
Hello, David.
I have one question for you. If you were invited to introduce one new rule into Test cricket, what would that be and why?
It'd be quite complicated working it out, but it would be, if you don't bowl your overs on time, you'll lose 20 runs. And then, I mean, in a way, it wouldn't matter about working it out because it wouldn't happen. So the overs would be bowled, and it's been one of my biggest bugbears, really. And I know over rate sounds boring, but it's not boring. It's an essential part of keeping cricket relevant and keeping television companies interested in showing it, particularly terrestrial television channels. They can still be persuaded to show Test cricket. And I've never understood why it is that the ICC is constantly shies away from doing the obvious thing. They've got penalty runs for other things. Why haven't they got penalty runs for over rates? I know it's complicated. You know, you could have the two teams fielding at different parts of the day, and one team might be running late, so that impacts on the other. I understand all that, but there's absolutely no excuse for a Test team not being able to bowl at 15 overs per hour. And there's so many now that don't do that. But I say, if you had the threat of 20 runs per over that weren't bowled, the calculation wouldn't matter because it wouldn't happen.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you, David. Peter, I think, wants to ask you about your career in cricket. Peter, are you there?
That won't take long.
I'm sure it would. No, thank you very much, Jonathan, for agreeing to do this. It's much appreciated. Yeah. I'd like to take you back 30 years. As Fingers says, you retired in 1990, but then you come back to play in 1992 in a NatWest semi-final, 5-wicket win against Essex, which is quite disappointing for me. I'm an Essex fan.
I think
Essex had a strong side.
I got the accent, Peter.
Essex had a really strong side. We had Gooch, Stevenson, Hussain, Pringle, Knight, Eilert and such, seven England internationals. You had the tidy figures of 12 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 31, but you got out the non-England player, John Lewis. But apart from that, it's the question on that. I'd like you to ask, what was the circumstances around your selection? Was it an easy decision to play? Your memories of the match? How did you feel afterwards? The final, were you asked to play? And did you have any other thoughts of coming out of retirement for any other games?
Okay, good question. Okay, I like that. Okay, so it was 2 years after I retired, basically. I was only 32, but I hadn't bowled a ball from retiring at the end of 1990. And there'd been a bit of talk about this, because in those days, there was a bit of a gap between the quarterfinals, semi-finals, final. There's lots of time for it all to build up, you know. And Graham Gooch was captain, of course, of England at the time. And it was just starting to boil up. And I remember interviewing Graham at Trent Bridge before a Test match. And he said in his voice, he said, "No, you're going to play against me then, Aggie, in the semi-final?" I said, "No, Graham." He said, "I'll destroy you if you do." I thought, yeah, absolutely. You know, he was really starting to put a bit of sort of psychological pressure on. And anyway, Nigel Bryars phoned up. He was captain of Leicester about 3 days before the game. And he said, "Jonathan, I want you to play in the game." I said, "Listen," I said, "I have not bowled for 2 years. It's a semi-final. So, you know, this is," he said, if you get 0 for 90, he said, and drop 3 catches, I'll still want you to have played. So I went in the loft, I pulled out my kit, and I went to the nets the day before the game. And it was I mean, for Leicestershire, you know, it was a huge event. I mean, for Essex too, but I mean, the semi-final, they were always, semi-finals are tough games, you know. They're tougher than the finals because it's all the effort to get to Lord's, isn't it? To get to the final. So I went to the nets and I bowled literally about 3 overs because I knew if I bowled any more than that, I'd be stiff as a board come match day. So I bowled about 3 overs. I worked out what run-up I was going to use, and I had a few catches, and that was it. And the great thing was, so we bowled first, didn't we? Yes, we bowled first. And Winston Benjamin, terrific West Indian cricketer, got Graham very early. Can't remember how he got him out, but he got him out. And so when I came on to bowl, Graham had gone. And my first ball, I'm pretty sure, was at Nasser Hussain. And it was a really horrible, wide, rank, half-volley loosener that Nasser drove, bang, out to cover, where Winston Benjamin did a brilliant diving stop in full stretch, left-handed. It would have been 4 runs, and he got none for it. And that, I think, just really set the tone, because Nasser was terrified of getting out to me. He blocked everything. And I ran in a bowl. They started off on the television graphics. They were behind me. Railingworth, Gower was on, all my old friends. It started off as right arm fast, the caption. And by the time I'd finished, it was right arm off breaks. So it kept going down through the gears. But I bowled my 12 overs right off because I knew I wouldn't come back. Poor old John Lewis. I met him for the first time a few years ago. And I said, I'm so sorry, but you were the last one, obviously. He just felt for one outside the off stump. And yeah, and we won. I didn't have to bat. And we got to the final. And we're at Lord's, of course. I'm up in the commentary box, and I saw Nigel Bryars running off the field from the nursery end with an ashen look on his face. And he's waving to me up in the commentary box, saying, come to the dressing room. I thought, here we go. So, excuse me. So he called me to the dressing room and said, David Milnes has broken down the nets. You've got to play, please play. So I'm not, Nigel, A, I haven't got any kit. And B, I'm not going to play in the final. I mean, I cannot play in the final. That's ridiculous. So I didn't play. It turned out it was one of the worst finals I think there's ever been. I think we both out, didn't we? And
yeah, you lost by
3 days.
Yeah.
Shocking match.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I talked myself out of any chance of playing in the final. But it was really, I've got a couple of really lovely cartoons actually that came out. And there was one, it was in the Daily Mail. And I think the cartoonist, who's called Mahood or someone like Mahood. But there's a great cartoon, it's Graham Gooch walking off with his fingers slumped in his pockets. He's saying to one of his Essex colleagues, it's bad enough these commentators telling us how to play without coming out and showing us. It was a brilliant cartoon. So anyway, no, Graham and I sort of joke about it, but it was a nice, it went right for once, put it that way.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed.
No, nice one.
Thanks very much indeed. Derek Wheeler, you're on next. I think you want to know about getting fit.
Yes, I would. Aggers, good for you to come and talk to us.
Pleasure, Derek.
Aggers, you introduce on Radio 5 most days the 10-a-day programme, which is a sporting, a fitness programme for older people.
Right.
And I've been doing this since the start of the lockdown. I'm feeling very fit. I'm going to ask you a favour. Can you two things? Can we stop the bloody awful background music that sounds like it's a soundtrack for an 80s porno movie? And would you also stop the man who keeps saying, when you have to do a thing with your arms punching, a wee bit of martial arts? It drives me, both of them drive me crazy. It's a good programme.
Well, Derek, I've got to be honest, I haven't heard it.
Oh, bloody hell.
I remember recording the links for it some months ago. In fact, you just reminded me, I did do it. But I haven't. Wait, what time's it on?
Well, no, I've got it on my phone. I've just got it.
Right.
I've got it download. Then I get up in the morning about 8 o'clock, and I put on my Bluetooth radio, play the phone, go to whatever day it is. Today was number 7, and I do my 10 minutes.
Well, but hey, look what it's done to you.
Yes, indeed.
I wish. I'll try and find it, but I do remember recording it. But I have to be honest, I'm afraid I've never heard it.
It's Sport England.
I'll have a look.
Yeah.
Well done.
Anyway, thanks very much.
Pleasure. Get yourself fit is the main thing.
Thanks very much.
Pleasure, Derek.
Thanks, Derek. I think we do have a little bit of a problem with video because we've got 164 people in the meeting, but we're not seeing video from everybody. I don't know what the problem is. I know you're all here. I know you can all see Aggers, which is fine, but I'm sorry if you haven't been able to get your video working. I'll try and sort that out for the next time. Derek, thank you. Our next question then comes from James Clayfield. James.
Aggers, good evening to you.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, you may have covered this earlier, and apologies because I came on a bit late, but just going back to the squad rotation, me as a 40-year-old, the England cricket team is my team, if you like. It's my Manchester United. And Test cricket for me is your main course. T20s is your starter, and the 50 over stuff is maybe your dessert. But so for me, yes, let's rotate them so we keep them fit for the Ashes. But I think they've rotated them. I'm thinking the likes of Bairstow, Butler, and Stokes for an ODI series and a T20 series, which I get leading up to the World Cup, but they're playing in the IPL. So to me, is it a case of Owen Morgan, they've said, you will have your best squad leading into the World Cup come what may, and therefore we've had to say the Test cricket takes a backward step. And for me as an avid fan, that's a dark day.
Yeah, I thought that rotation was wrong. It started, of course, with Bairstow, who actually played pretty well in Sri Lanka, getting that position back they really wanted. What we don't know is if he was asked whether he wants to stay or not, and we don't know that of Jos Buttler either, who of course went back after England's famous win. It was a famous win, that first Test match, and then he's on the plane home. So perhaps he did miss earlier, but I said, look, tours of India, in my experience, which has been there quite a lot of times now, it is like a bubble anyway. You are restricted, apart from maybe in Mumbai, you can go to a restaurant or two there, but generally, you as a player, you live in your hotel. Yeah. Eat in your hotel, everything takes place in the hotel. So therefore, I really didn't feel that the bubble life, if you like, was as restrictive and as oppressive, probably a better word, as it was last summer here, because that was really tough, and they did very well to stick it out. So I thought they got that wrong. As far as the T20 tickets, it's quite interesting. I have interviewed Morgan this morning, and I said to him that very point. There's been obviously a lot of talk about the rotating of the Test players. Do you think it's right that the T20 team is the strongest pick, if you like, that you've got what you want? And he absolutely, as you might expect, argued very bullishly in favour of it, because he said we've got five matches. The T20s in the summer, we won't have half our team because they'll be rested, playing Test matches or whatever it may be. This is our chance to get our team together and to play in the conditions. He said we couldn't ask for any more. We're playing in India, the World Cup's in India. This is our moment to do it. And so, I do kind of get that. I mean, I'm like you. I'm obviously a huge fan of Test cricket, and I want to do everything I can to protect Test cricket and to make sure that everyone who comes after us has a chance to get the same enjoyment out of the game that we've been lucky enough to have. But I did feel that maybe Morgan had a point. If you are going to, well, we saw what happened with the 50 overs, and if you really invest time, money, resources into that, you can win. And given that England, well, Virat Kohli has said today is the team to beat in the World Cup, they're starting off from a very strong position. And there is an expectation they're going to go well. So if you're an ECB administrator, if you're running the game, if you're trying to get your sponsors and interest in cricket, winning a World Cup is clearly a big notch, isn't it? And so I can see why they've done it this time. Yeah. For me, however, the real true mark of whether rotation has worked will be if we walk off this new stadium at Perth at the end of January, having won the Ashes, because there's been a huge amount of this is down to that. It's going to be a very difficult trip to beat them there, but if rotating and resting players and looking after them now gets England to that stage, and maybe winning the World Cup on the way, the T20 World Cup, it wouldn't be bad, would it?
Thank you. Well, I think we've got time for one more question, which I think it's a tongue-in-cheek question here from Chris Biddle. Chris, would you like to ask your question?
Tongue-in-cheek, Paris of thought. Aggers, good evening. I wonder whether you could compare and contrast commentating on a 5-day Test match, if there is such a thing these days, with commentating on the dressage at the Olympics.
Well, I just received word last week, unfortunately, that I won't be going to Tokyo, because no one wants to go to Tokyo, which is a shame, because I was going to go. I was going to defend my medals, because I got the show jumping gold as well, of course. But, I think I was selected to do dressage. Well, actually, I'm still trying to puzzle out why I was. But I think it's because the pace is quite similar. But what I will say is that doing that equestrianism for the Rio Olympics was one of the best things I've ever done, because I had to work so bloody hard at learning something completely new and under such scrutiny that I've never worked harder in my life at anything. I had 2 years from zero to being able to say not say what's a good half pass or a poor half pass, but at least being able to recognize half passes and everything else. And that, so there's two things really, was the amazing attitude of the equestrians themselves, none of whom said, "What are you doing coming into our sport? And, you know, you're a cricketer." They were really welcoming, and they wanted me to do it my way. So to sort of try and, I don't know, kind of make it a bit more approachable, perhaps, like I try and do with cricket. And also I started off going and helping Emma rides, and so she does dressage tests. So I stood on the edge in the arena, and you can call out the moves, and so the moves started to make a bit of sense. And Carl Hester was who's Mr. Dressage, really was just incredible, and I used to go and see him, sit with him while having his lessons, and he was giving lessons, and it was amazing. And when Skelton got his gold, I mean, Charlotte Dujardin was always going to get gold in the dressage, so I could sort of prepare for that to an extent, although we didn't know quite what the routine was going to be to music and so on. And I had to commentate on the German after having not seen any of her stuff at all. That was quite interesting, because it's 8 minutes and there's a lot of walking in a dressage test. But to actually get there and do it, and the thrill, this is something again just to finish on, perhaps it's all like the Ashes, the difference in a way, and it is a difference in watching a team. And I've been lucky enough, I've commented on England winning the Ashes at home and also in Australia. But when it's one of your own in the Olympics, and because I got quite close to Carl and to Charlotte Dujardin, it's incredibly emotional when you actually stand up to the national anthem and the Union flag goes up the pole and the medals are draped around their shoulders, and years of hard work have come to that end result. I found it incredibly moving. And also because the Germans were on the row in front of me in the commentary box, and we'd spent the whole of the first week standing up to Deutschland, über alles every day, because they kept cleaning up and everything else. So finally you could gesture to them, get up, this so-and-so, you know, national anthem time, and, you know, celebrate England winning. And it was, or GB, we should say. It was, so actually to be part of that was amazing. And I haven't ridden for a little while, but I learned how to ride, which I never thought I'd do at the age of 55. And Emma and I have been on 2 riding holidays, which are fantastic. Just the feeling of cantering on a horse when you get it right, it's a fantastic thing. So all in all, I'm very grateful to my boss for making the right decision, that we actually weren't any good at archery, which is what I did at Lord's, and send me off to do the equestrianism, because it was professionally really useful to do it. I got a lot from that.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Aggers. It's been a really enjoyable hour. May I make a quick apology to those who have had problems getting in this evening. Also, apologies for those who have been unable to join with video. I've no idea what it is, obviously down to me, and I apologise. We'll get it right next time. There will be a recording available in the next few days, and I'll let everyone know when it's available. Now, Fingers is going to say a few closing words and to announce some future guests. John.
Thank you very much indeed, James. You talk, Aggers, about taking up riding at the age of 55, which I happen to note is exactly half the age of your late maternal grandmother, who died at 110. So I'd like to hope that you've got another 55 years of activity ahead of you.
I don't think that's going to happen.
But it's been an absolute joy to listen to you. I can quite understand why you were the winner of the Sports Journalists Association and Sonny Awards, and why you were awarded your MBE for services to broadcasting. It's been a joy to listen to you, and I hope that you've found. And no one has mentioned the famous incident either, which I thought was rather good.
Quite a relief.
I was going to, but I decided not to. Anyway, it's been wonderful to have you, and thank you very much indeed. James, is this the moment you'd like me to put the next programme forward?
Yes, if you could do that, and then then afterwards, I'm going to ask you all to unmute so we can give Jonathan a well-deserved round of applause. But please do.
If
yes.
you'd like to make a note of in your diaries or on a piece of paper, we have 3 more booked. On Wednesday, the 24th of March, Johnny Barclay is going to join us from Arundel and Sussex. On Friday, the 16th of April, Darren Goff is going to come and join us. And on Monday, the 26th of April, an 85-year-old is going to come and be our guest in the form of Sir Edward, Ted Dexter. So we have quite a good programme lined up, and we're trying to get 1 or 2 more in before the real cricket season starts. But thank you all for coming, and thank you again, Aggers, for being such a good speaker.
Thank you.
Let's just hope we meet again at Lord's very soon. It wasn't,
look forward to it very much.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody. Stay safe. Stay
Bye.
well.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.